What's up, guys? Jon Haws here, RN, founder of nursing.com, and I'm joined today with Clyde, Murse Clyde.
Yes,
and we're going to dig into Clyde's background. It's a really great story. But before we get started, I wanted to get y'all's attention with Clyde sharing one of his most memorable patient stories, something that stuck out to you in the couple of years you've been ICU nursing.
Well, thank you for having me first. I'm here in Portland, and man, it's been an amazing, the team over here at nursing.com has been rolled out the red carpet for me, so it's been amazing. Patient story, oh my goodness, there's so many memorable stories. Well, I'll say this, not to get all sad and stuff, but, a lot of my patient stories, especially the really, really good ones, tend to come from my interactions with their family. Because, when you're taking care of patients, you got to take care of the family. The family always is. And then, with COVID the last year and a half, we haven't really had a lot of access to family. They are not able to visit just because of the precautions and the lockdowns. So I remember I was taking care of a husband and wife duo. They were literally across the hall from each other.
COVID patients or separate?
COVID. Okay. COVID patients. They were doing bad. Well, there was a daughter. They had a daughter who would call, and just to get updates on her parents. And she would call, and you can tell that the weight of the world was just, was on her shoulders. And so she would call, and at one point when this was pretty early on, we were like completely blocked off in the isolation. They built walls and partitions and anti-rooms, and just to try to, we didn't know this thing. Yeah. So back there, you were there or you're not. If you're there, you're full on taking care of the exact COVID patients. So I had both of her parents at one time, and we call, get updates, and we would talk pretty regularly. At this point, I was working 5 and 6 shifts a week just to help out because we were so short during this time period. So I'm having the same patients exactly, pretty consecutive. So her mom passed away, unfortunately, and she called me, and first thing I'm thinking is, how are you doing? Here she is. She's calling. I'm obviously upset, but now she's asking me, how are you doing? Give me a second, because you don't get that a lot.
No, not at all.
You don't get that a lot. You're so used to providing,
care.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's okay, because
that's the job.
That's the job. Right. That's the gig. And I'm, I signed up for this, and I'm down for that. But so we start developing a almost pseudo friendship because she was calling same time every night. And I got to a point where I was looking forward to her calls. Yeah. I was looking forward to her, and I know her number on my phone. And I would tell them, just let her call me directly.
Straight to your phone,
yeah. Let her call me directly, it's okay. She would call me, we would talk, and it would be the same time around a little bit after midnight. She would let me get settled because she knows I'm busy at the beginning of the shift. She would call me, and now she starts calling, and we're talking very frequently to check on her dad. And I remember her dad ended up going down and ended up passing away. But before he did, the doctor was able to give her a heads up. Hey, you probably should come up and come see your father. So she came up, and unfortunately, she didn't make it in time. It was just happened to be the timing when he started going down. But she came, and this was actually my first time meeting her. We talked on the phone for weeks, and I would set up the FaceTime so she could talk to her dad. So I would kind of, but at this time we're
covered up.
We're hazmat. We're set up in like we're going to a chemical plant or something. And so, but she came up, but I instantly knew who she was.
Right.
I instantly knew who she was, and she went into the room, and I'm there, and only thing I thought is this patient's family needs to be consoled.
Right.
That's all.
Right.
I didn't know her family situation like fully, but she needs to be consoled because she's doing this alone right now. You know, so I remember going in and just being there, whatever she needed. If she wanted to talk, if she wanted to hug, and I know there was social distance at this point. We were heavy on it. Mm-hmm. I didn't care,
right? Because
I said this person needs
It's a person, right?
Exactly. Yeah. I can't just go in and look at you and talk to you, I need to bring you in. And, you know, that was my interaction afterwards. You know, obviously, there's no reason for her to come anymore.
Right.
There's no reason for her to call. So I was completely moving on to the next patient. That was obviously very memorable. Maybe a few months later, I get a phone call from the CNO of the hospital. And the CNO says, like, hey, do you remember taking care of this family and this patient? I'm like, yeah. She's like, oh, well, there's all of this. They sent all this food and, you know, donuts and snacks and all this stuff to the unit. Oh, thank you. I really appreciate it. Then we get another email from Daisy, who is the Daisy Award, where they, nominate nurses. Mm-hmm. And it was from the family member, and she shared the really touching story. I mean, her detail was way more than this, but long 4 or 5 page letter, just speaking on her experience. And, I would say that because after hearing her recollection of it, and to see just the impact, because again, I was just being myself. Right. I didn't do anything special in my mind. I just was loving on somebody, and so I think that's my most memorable is that interaction, because it's something that I think will stick with me probably.
And I'm glad that's the story you shared.
Yeah.
Because, let me think if I can organize my thoughts on it. A lot of times in nursing school and in the nursing textbooks, you're told, separate yourself.
Yeah.
It's provide the care, don't create connections.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, right out of school too, it was the same thing. It's like, these are humans going through the worst thing of their life.
Mm-hmm.
Before nursing, I hadn't experienced any of this stuff. Like we talked yesterday, like I had grandparents die or whatever like that, but I hadn't been there seeing people
through the process
over and over and over. And for me, that was really important too. And that's one thing I've shared before too, somewhere in the podcast or a lesson or something, that when the patient dies, your work isn't done.
Mm-hmm.
Now you turn your focus to the family, because this is a parent, this is a loved one, this is a spouse, this is a kid, their kid, and they need that touch, that human interaction. And I can't stress that enough. And right before we started rolling too, Clyde was talking about preventing burnout. And I think for some people, creating that connection can lead to burnout.
Yeah.
So maybe you can talk on that. First of all, I want to say to students listening, I'm going to go against everything your textbook says and say, create connection. It's okay. It's okay to be human. It's okay to cry. It's okay to cry.
Yeah.
With your patient. I've cried with patients before.
I was in tears that day when I was there with her, because
they don't want robots taking care of their parents. They want
exactly. And burnout is real. And it's easy to get burned out caring so much. You got to do things to recharge.
And what do you do?
Well,
you said you like sleep.
I like to rest. I love to sleep. I take care of myself. So people are always go, 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 go. Yeah. Nurses are known to go, 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 go. And go, go, go on just a few hours of sleep.
It's not possible.
It's not possible long term.
Yeah.
You become irritable. You are just not your best self. So I rest. I also journal. I journal. And
I think the experiences, or generally,
just everything. I journal everything, because I feel like, okay, if I can put it in words what I'm feeling, especially during COVID, I sometimes, I journal. And then another thing is to accept the fact, and this is hard, I think, just for nurses in general, that there are things that you just cannot change.
Yeah.
No
How
matter,
do you do that though? That's for me. That's the.
It's tough. It's tough because even now, I still sometimes run through my head and I try to think about a situation and I say, well, what could I have done differently? And you know what? I think you'll always do that as a nurse, but you have to come to a realization that, look, the disease process has a path.
Right.
And there's just certain paths that no matter how many compressions you did, how much epi you give during a cold blue, you know, sometimes it's just time.
Right.
You know, and it's hard to kind of say, oh, on one end, oh, you know, we don't want robots. It's not about being robotic. Right. It's literally about just accepting that you've given your all. Right. You know, recognize as long as you've given your all and you've done, you know, within your scope of practice everything that you can do. Right. You know, and you've intervened with everything that you know, you know. You've gotten recommendations from some of the more experienced nurses. Right. You've collaborated with the physicians. Right. If you've done everything that you needed to, you've advocated for your patient. You know, you're respecting the patient's wishes because oftentimes I find that sometimes what I want for a patient and what a patient wants for themselves, they may be on completely different ends of the street. But if you understand and remember, patient has the right to refuse and choose whatever type of care that they want. And that was difficult for me because I'm like, you're 45. Why are you DNR?
We can do this. Yeah.
We can fix you.
Right.
You know, and sometimes fixing things is kind of becomes our Achilles heel. You know, because we want to fix everything.
That's why we do this, right?
And that's why we do this. But it's like, well, no.
I can make the world better.
It's like, no, I can do this, you know, but some things, you know, you just have to let nature take its course and, you know, be at peace with yourself. Yeah. One thing that I tell people is when I leave work, and it's so funny, I leave work and I go to my car in the parking deck. I literally, and I physically do this, but it's just literal. I do this. I zip and I step out of whatever I'm in. I literally fold it up, and as I'm driving, it's imaginary, drop it out the window.
Smart.
And that just, I don't know, it just makes me feel, it's cathartic. It makes me feel like, okay, whatever is happened for the night, it's done.
It's over. Yeah.
Because guess what? There's going to be a whole 12 hours, even if I'm back that night, there's a whole 12 hours of things that I have absolutely nothing to do with.
Yeah.
When I come back, whatever's presented to me, it can be a completely better patient.
Right.
Or the same patient that's completely worse.
Starting over.
You're starting fresh, whatever encounter.
So if there's probably, if you hear that, you might think, well, Clyde's crazy, you know, but I'm going to say, man, I wish I did that because it was really, really, really hard for me working in the ICU to leave it behind. Thanks for watching another nursing.com lesson. Click the link below in the description to watch thousands more lessons over on nursing.com. Also, be sure to hit the subscribe and the little bell to make sure you're reminded when new lessons come out. And if you want to just keep watching more lessons, go ahead and click this video over here to continue learning. Like we always say here at nursing.com, happy nursing.